Hello everybody. So I don't cover Tesla much on the channel because it's covered everywhere. I mean, half of every stock video I see is probably about Tesla on YouTube. Um, but I do want to say that Tesla is my biggest position, as you may know, and this quote really strikes me as relevant here, which is sometimes the best opportunity out there is right in front of our eyes, and just like in 2012, if you remember 2012 days, people were getting very excited about Apple, and everybody bought Apple in 2012. That was kind of a thing. And I believe today we're in a similar era to Tesla. With Tesla, everybody looks at Tesla and is admirative of Tesla, myself included. If you are in the business space, I think there's a lot of things that they do which no one else does, and which really places them at the heart of this energy revolution, even beyond cars at some point. And so yesterday they had Investor Day, and Investor Day, I watched the whole thing yesterday evening. Really interesting presentation. I went in expecting something really bad because the media said it was so bad, and actually I thought it was an amazing presentation. A very technical, no fluff. Tesla is a low to no fluff company. There is almost no fluff. It was all hard technical stuff, and so a lot of people say they're empty promises, but actually when you look under the hood you realize they're not empty promises. And of course the media reported negatively about Tesla events, as is the norm for it's the way it is. Journalists hate Tesla events. They love to criticize, and of course the stock was down quite a bit today. And actually sold a little bit of Snowflake today. I completely sold out of Snowflake, but some of my sales of Snowflake went towards Tesla because I believe the Tesla opportunity is tremendous. So what do we know that we didn't know before? Well, we kind of knew everything before. We knew that a robotaxi was coming, and we knew that likely a Tesla Model 2, is coming. We've also learned that a gigafactory in Mexico is coming, although we don't have any detail. My guess is that the Model 2 or the next gen Tesla will be made at Giga Mexico, and they're saving kind of an announcement for when that factory gets built. My guess is that the 300 million unit vehicle, a very long-term global fleet here, my guess is that would be the robotaxi. Of course, none of these vehicles have been unveiled. But let me just say this. So, Elon Musk is a tech entrepreneur. I think it's very clear by now. He was part of the PayPal Mafia. And if you haven't heard of the PayPal Mafia, it's an article from Fortune from 2007 that really investigated these entrepreneurs and got the term started. And really the PayPal Mafia, there's a few hallmarks about the PayPal Mafia companies. One of them is that you need to become a monopoly really fast before others even realize it. So you need to have a very compelling product. You need to push for market share, and market share and volume needs to be the first thing you focus on, because competition kills profits, and you want to create a monopoly. So you're trying to get away from competition. You're trying to make competition entirely irrelevant. And in order to do that, right, you need to provide a product that is both the best and the cheapest product. That's how you're going to do that. If you have a product that is just incrementally better, say 30% better, nobody's going to adopt the product. If you have a product that is one order of magnitude better, right, 10x better, then people who are going to flock to buy the product. And that's why Tesla to this day has very low inventory, and they sell every car that they make. To give you an example, I didn't cover this in the video, but to give you an example as to why Tesla is so cheap, in Texas they're introducing this free charging at night electric plan, where it's going to be $30, and you can charge your Teslas, if you have multiple ones, for free at the night. So, I mean, we're getting even cheaper than the normal cost reduction of electric cars. Like you're getting essentially to a world where driving around has zero marginal cost, or almost zero marginal cost at $30 a month, right? I mean, that's not even half a tank for most people. So what are some examples of these companies, right? These PayPal Mafia companies. Well, I'll show you a few. YouTube, right, where we're on right now, that was a PayPal Mafia company, a really big one. LinkedIn, that was a big one. Airbnb, Palantir, Square, Open Door. I like Open Door on this channel. Affirm, and Tesla, and SpaceX, and there's quite a few more. These are all PayPal Mafia companies. And when I call a PayPal Mafia company, it's either a company that was founded by one of the PayPal Mafia members, or it is a company that it's a company that they invested in, right? So Elon Musk, for example, technically did not found Tesla, but he invested very, very early in Tesla, and without Tesla, the company would have gone bankrupt. And all of these companies, these PayPal Mafia companies, they have a few things in common. First of all, they question the status quo. They try to break old industry norms. They try to break something, right? They create new industries. They create blue ocean as opposed to red ocean, where there's a lot of competition. And each of these businesses fit that. And so clearly, if you take a business like YouTube, it is going after linear TV, right? And all of this, kind of moat TV channels. That's why YouTube was created, even down to the logo. It was going against the TV. And sure enough, YouTube is the number one streaming platform today. It's a free streaming platform. Therefore, it's the best. If you do a price to quality ratio analysis, YouTube is going to be the best content you can get, and you get it for free. LinkedIn is kind of the same way. They did this job search social media, which became essentially the way to look for a job in so many different industries. So all of these companies shoot for this. And they should to create something like this. And this is not new. Like, the whole idea that you need to render the old industry irrelevant is not a new idea. Some people call it the blue ocean idea, others call it the white space concept of a white space opportunity. It's a well-known idea. It's the idea that as a newcomer, you should disrupt all of the old modes that are out there with a new technology. And sometimes it can be a social or a business model or an environmental innovation, but oftentimes it's going to be technology. And that newcomer is disrupting the old industry by rendering it irrelevant. So some of the books in this field are very in depth. I would argue, for example, the big one is, of course, the Innovator's Dilemma by Clay Christensen. When new technologies cause great firms to fail. And this is what's going to happen to much of the auto industry, right? This is what happened to Nokia, Alcatel, BlackBerry. That's what happened to them when the iPhone came around, right? And so the same is happening to the auto industry right now. 0 to 1 is the same concept. Is you need to come up with one order of magnitude better, a product that's at least 10 times better, 100 times better, even 1,000 times better. And if you have a product like this, customers will flock to you, and they will not even consider buying anything else. And the last one is to create it's more of a marketing boot. The blue ocean strategy is a big one. Is how do you create an uncontested market space and make your competition irrelevant? And I really like the idea of the whole blue ocean here, which is the idea that when you compete against established norms, right? Established companies have tremendous moats. Imagine if Elon Musk had tried to compete with the regular auto business. He would have lost, right? Because he didn't have distribution, didn't have factories, didn't have scale. The only reason why he won is because he went blue ocean. And blue ocean was this: create an entirely new market where there is nobody else. Create new demand for a product that did not exist before by making a product so compelling that everybody buys that product. And how do you make the product compelling? Well, that's this whole idea that you need to have a best cost product. You need to have a product that is both the best and the cheapest. While if you look at red ocean, typically you would have a low quality product, but it was cheap, or you would have a high quality product, but it was very expensive. Today, with technology, new manufacturing techniques, you can make it so that you have the best product and also the cheapest product. And so, for example, if you look at the sports car world, dollar for dollar, there is no car that accelerates as fast as a Tesla. Dollar for dollar, it's not even comparable. It's a 10x improvement. That's the technology. That's the underlying technology which makes Teslas and electric car in general, but especially Teslas, that much better, and which is why people are switching already, and they are going to switch more and more, just like they did for the iPhone. So in a nutshell, blue ocean strategies or innovative strategies or order of magnitude better strategies make moats entirely irrelevant because you're creating a new industry. So you're not rent seeking from your moats, yeah, right? It's not something you're trying to defend. It makes them entirely different by shifting the market. And that's what all of the PayPal Mafia companies are trying to do, right? Open door for the real estate market. They're trying to disrupt the realtors and brokers by making them irrelevant. And sure enough, they were well on their way to do that until the Fed happened. Block, right? Block, same, another stock that is down 80%. They're doing the same thing with their Cash App, disrupting Visa and MasterCard, disrupting open loop payments by creating this closed loop system that costs way less. Palantir's trying to do the same thing with data apps where you can recreate your own ERP system or your own SaaS apps by having this operating system for the enterprise. Airbnb is well on its way to winning this one. And actually, if you look at the staggering amount of hotels of rooms available that they have on their website, I mean, it doesn't even come close to hotels. Airbnb is out to disrupt hotels, and I would argue any sort of short-term mom-and-pop apartment rental they are trying to disrupt as well. And of course, now we come to Tesla. And Tesla is trying to disrupt the automobile industry and the energy industry. And when you ask yourself which has the biggest addressable market out there out of all of these PayPal Mafia companies, it is, in my view, energy. Because energy underlies absolutely everything we do. And Elon Musk is starting to disrupt energy, starting with automobile. But if you follow Tesla, it's much more than just the automobiles. It's after the autos, there will be new things that are explored. Megapacks are starting out. In the presentation, Investor Day, yesterday, it talked about heat pumps, ASICS systems, boats, planes, pretty much anything that uses fossil fuel falls under the purview of Tesla's disruption. And so, of course, the total addressable market, the biggest one right here is auto. So if you invest in Tesla, you're investing into the biggest TAM possible, which is, the very source of our economy, which is energy. Energy is essential to everything we do. And so to make innovation irrelevant, your product needs to be the best, the cheapest, and it needs to scale. As you scale, you get even cheaper, right? And Tesla's innovation makes all three possible. And what happens is yesterday at Investor Day, they showed more ways that this is going to be possible. So they went into the nitty-gritty, into all of the details as to why Tesla makes it possible to be both the best and the cheapest and to scale. And quickly enough, one of the goals of Investor Day was to kind of back with science their 20 million vehicle goal. They wanted to back that, and they spent a bunch of time in presentation showing that yes, it is possible. And they talked about the minerals. They talked about where the batteries come from. They take a lot of time addressing some of the concerns that, say, the average investor has, right? Analysts were there. It's an event for a lot of analysts. Try to address these concerns and to show that actually, yes, Earth physics shows us that there's nothing that prevents us from doing that. He spent a lot of time doing that in that presentation. And then the justification throughout the presentation was, how are we going to make it? How are we going to achieve 20 million vehicles by 2030? Which, if you watch it, that was one of the big goals of the event, is to explain how they're going to get there. But really quickly, let me just pause on the valuation. I told you Tesla is my biggest position. I added more to Tesla today. But, very simple back of the napkin math, assuming no inflation, and, we know they have semis in there. We know they have Model S and Model X, which cost much more than $50,000 in there. But assuming $20 million 20 million vehicles times an average sales price per vehicle of $50,000. That would be $1 trillion in revenue. And assuming a company like Tesla trades in line with any other big tech company, so you assume it trades, Apple trades at 6 times sales and Google trades at 4 times sales. So assuming Tesla trades kind of between Apple and Google, i.e. 5 times sell, that would give you a valuation for Tesla of $5 trillion. And Tesla right now is a little bit north of 500 billion. So 500 billion to 5 trillion is about a 10x. Maybe a 9x if you buy Tesla. A little bit more expensive than just right now. So it's a 9 to 10x. But the question is, how can they get to 20 million vehicles? That's a huge amount of vehicles. Well, they keep guiding over and over and over again that 50% new delivery number, and so and that's what they've been doing successfully. So if you just look at the delivery numbers, and you see in 2022 they did 1.31 million, and you multiply by 50%, you can see that, and imagine you have no bumps in the road, nothing, you can see that by the end of 2029, right, they would be at 22.27 million. That is the beauty of exponential growth, and keeping in mind that much of that growth is going to happen after 2026, right? Much of that's the nature of exponentiality, and I'm guessing a lot of people will start noticing that this is possible maybe like in 2027 or 2026. That's when most people will be like, oh, wait a minute, that's possible. Right now, they did 1.31 million cars. People hear 22 million in 6 years. They hear 22 million. They're like, this is not possible. Get out of here. This is entirely impossible. That is because they do not think exponentially. When you think exponentially, when you have over the same period of time, when you have consistent growth repeating over the same periods, i.e. a year in this example, you're going to get to exponentiality. So they follow an exponential curve. So let me just get into the event itself. The event itself is, before I get to the event, just one second. Before I get to the event, how does Tesla do this? Well, how do they sell, right? How do they sell 22 million cars? How do they sell that? Well, they need to make sure that the product is always the best value, right? So in order to make sure that your product is always the best value, you need to always add more value to the product and also drop the prices. So that's why Tesla is going to keep dropping its prices, and they need to make sure that they don't go bankrupt in the process. So they're going to be focusing on cost reduction. That's what I'll present right here, all of the things that they do with cost reduction. And they're also going to be focusing on increasing their scale. And so Investor Day today was mostly about the to-be-determined Model 2, which they called Next Gen, I assume, but I think it's going to be mostly Model 2, their cheaper version. And they did say in the presentation that their cheaper version is going to be 50% cheaper than the current models. So assuming that what I'm presenting here and all the changes they're planning allows them to go 50% cheaper than a Model 3, that would mean that you'd be at $17,500 in cost to make a car. So we're getting close to the Tony Seba prediction of a $10,000 car by 2030. We're getting pretty close to that prediction here. So you'd be at $17,500, and I have no doubt that Tesla will do its best to reduce costs. So let's go into some of the things that Tesla does to reduce costs now, finally. So I'll get started. So, and these are all what struck me, right? I'm not going through the presentation. The whole presentation was 3 hours and a half. So this is what struck me. So one of the things that they do is that they want their operators to do more. So what happens is that in the traditional design, the traditional process, the assembly line, the whole car moves from workstation to workstation. And it ends up very problematic because you can see this worker right there. They have to go all the way to the side of the car and all the way to the side of the car, and same for those. So there's like a tremendous amount of movement that happens to get the car done. So their idea of the design is that they want to split that car into different, much smaller parts and have people work on much smaller parts. So this is the front of the car, right? The hood of the car, that's the spot right here, which is right here. By changing this, what allows them is that you have workers that can work on a much narrower piece of the car. And by doing this, you're improving the density of your operator by 44%. and 30% space-time efficiency, i.e. there's less movement. So it takes less space and it takes less operator work just by changing the way the plant is designed and the car is designed. And this is essentially how it works. So instead of having an assembly line with the car moving slowly from workstation to workstation and busy workers running around, they want to separately work on the different parts and then assemble them all together at the very end. So they have kind of this unboxed process, assembly line 2.0, which they think is tremendously going to help them produce Cybertrucks and Model 2s going forward. All right, example number 3. What do? Well, they design for assembly. So one of the things that they do is that when they design the car, they don't have a design office disconnected from manufacturing. They are actually working together. And when all of the parts of the organization work together, when they're holistic, that means that you get things that are not possible in the traditional organization. So for example, their next generation motor is not going to have any rare earth in it because, in supply chain, they've noticed that getting rare earth is a big problem. Same for their batteries. Their batteries are going to be based on a lot of iron. And the reason why they did that is because supply chain works with engineering. And then engineering and supply chain also work with design. And so when they engineer and design a vehicle, they think about just about everything. So one of the things that they do holistically is they change from a 12-volt architecture, which is the way cars have been controlled in the past with controllers, and they are moving to 48 volts architecture of controllers. And that's a big shift in the industry. The industry has been actually working on 12 volt. Car electricity has been 12 volt for like 60 years, and they're changing that to 48 volt. And to give you an example, one of the great things that allows them to do is that they can save multiple tens of pounds on cables, because when you raise the voltage of your architecture, you need less strong wires. You need wires that can carry voltage and not amps. So you don't need to worry as much about the amps, and you're saving weights, and therefore, since you're saving weight, you're increasing the range. They're also reducing the number of connectors within the car by using Ethernet connections and connecting connectors to those hubs, and then those hubs are connected for Ethernet, and you save more weight. So these are teeny tiny things that allow vehicles to be much more efficient and really design a vehicle better. All right, moving on. Here's another thing that they do. They do custom electronics. So in the past, they would buy, third-party parts, and this is their former computer in the car, and they had to do, 1, 2, 3. Actually, in the presentation, the presenter said 5 different processors, and they've moved away from like 5 different processors to just one custom chip. So they're moving away from custom chips, off-market chips or chips from suppliers, and then they're developing their own. So this is a little bit like Apple does it, right? Apple moved away from Intel, doesn't use Intel chips, but developed its own chip. Well, Tesla is doing its own ASICS manufacturing. They're creating their own chip, and by doing that, they are securing supply chain, and they're avoiding any sort of shortages, and they're doing more efficient, and they're saving cost, right? They're bringing ever more things in-house. So custom electronics is another thing that they do. Then software. So software has always been a fundamental part of Tesla. The best way to talk about this is they are smartphone on wheels, right? Teslas are smartphone on wheels. You update. So while a traditional car is sold, by the year, and you have different years, that is not how a Tesla is sold. A Tesla updates to versions of the car, just like a cell phone does. And so this has been very, very helpful because they can increase and improve the product. They can improve the quality of the product throughout your life of ownership of the product. So there's many things that they've added that we don't think of. For example, active safety belts that really prevent you from having a stroke. Well, not prevent, but reduce your odds of having a stroke. That activate more smoothly during an accident. That was a software update. Another one which is very popular is Sentry mode. Like if you look at a Tesla for a little too long on a parking lot, you'll have the screen that lights up, and you'll have a car that lights up, and that says a big screen recording. Well, that was a software update. Many software updates improve the abilities of the car, and they were presenting just the latest iteration of their software update here, which is going to be predictive air suspensions. So as we are building a network of road conditions, they'll be able to know which road is rough, which road is not rough, and they'll be able to change the suspension based on the road, thereby making your ride more comfortable, but also saving you on gas, right? Because if you have to raise the vehicle, you're less aerodynamic. Saving you on electricity, I meant, not gas, obviously. So they're doing all of these software updates, and so who knows what other software updates we're going to get in the future. That's kind of what's exciting about getting a Tesla, is that you don't know all of the software updates they're going to get. Just like your phone gets better over time, your car gets better over time, and I think that's a 0-to-1 move. That's a fundamentally new move in the transportation business that you didn't have before. And so we can easily imagine, once FSD's around, you can imagine, say, I don't know, a drive me to the airport mode, where the car drops you off at the airport and drives itself home. It's just an example of what you could imagine going for Tesla. Okay, example number 5. So they did show off the Tesla bot, and you know, Elon Musk has been very clear as to what the Tesla bot is. The Tesla bot is a permanent recruiting tool. It is a recruiting tool for now. It allows them to hire the best engineers, and of course you can't have, I don't think you can have a Tesla presentation without a bot. So they showed off some of the capabilities of the bot, and the reason why they do that is because they want to hire the best engineers. I really fundamentally believe that. Of course, down the road there may be a use case, but for now they're doing this because engineers think it's cool. Engineers think this is cool. They want to get an opportunity to work on this, at least the world's best engineers. And, you know, if you want the best proof of that, is I would just go on Boston Dynamics YouTube page and look at the number of views that videos get. Like, whenever Boston Dynamics releases a video about a robot, it goes viral because robots are cool in the engineering community. And I think they're cool too, even though I'm not an engineer. I think they're cool too. I think a lot of people think they're cool. So Elon Musk, you know, this is a recruiting tool. So they're going to be able to recruit more people thanks to that. Better people, but people that work, you know, awesome. Okay, another one, you know, kind of, you know, thinking about all these tiny innovations that make the company better. So of course, when you buy into the Tesla conglomerate, you also buy your own Exxon, quote unquote Exxon of charging stations. And this is how they start a charging station. They make them prefabricated in the factory, and then they just drop them in, pour a little bit of concrete around it, and boom, you're done. And so that cuts multiple weeks of install time. So while it would take, you know, if governments were to build a charging station, you know, it would take decades. When Tesla does it, it goes extremely fast because they just have a factory that creates them and prints them, and you can just move them around. And of course, in typical Tesla fashion, this is exactly the size of a semi-truck trailer. So you just have them deliver with a semi-truck, and that's one of the ways that they're more efficient. Let me move on. There's more. Okay, Tesla supply chain. So they have a lot of videos in that one that I could not include, but what's very important is that, first of all, compared to traditional automakers, Tesla has very, very few parts suppliers, and so they really insisted about how few the number of parts suppliers they have compared to traditional automaker. And another thing is that they're so integrated within their supply chain that Tesla provides advice and consulting on their suppliers on how their suppliers can automate. So they were showing a process where they were able to help a supplier automate. And they were very clear that their goal is to reduce the number of suppliers, and they have suppliers compete against each other. So if suppliers don't do the implementations, say, required for automation, Tesla will drop that supplier and try to find a new supplier or try to do it in-house. But it was very clear how Tesla works with suppliers to make sure that suppliers innovate just like Tesla. And then lastly, I'll finish with gigafactories. So it takes a very long time to build a gigafactory. Actually, Giga Texas and Shanghai were built in record time. But if you look at what happened in Germany at Berlin, the Berlin gigafactory took a very long time to build. In fact, a lot of Tesla investors were very depressed. You know, there was an opening, and then some group found snakes nearby, and that delayed it by a few months because they found snakes on the parking lot of the factory or something. So there's a lot of bureaucracy bureaucracy, and it's very long to build a factory. So the premise of this is they try to build as few factories as possible to make them as large as possible. And then the components inside those factories take less and less space. And so they're showing, this is just an example, they're showing the footprint of their original 2170 cells, which is what they use today still in, most of their cars still use those cells. And they're showing what to expect going forward. And when they move to 4680, you can see that the footprint is going to be greatly reduced in terms of size compared to what it took before. This is probably a 10x reduction. But not only does it take about 10 times less space, your processes are reduced, your ports are reduced. So they're trying to make it ever more simple to build a factory. And this was just the 9 examples. But if Tesla is a large portion of your portfolio, like it is for me, I really think it's important to watch this, and of course more than a million people have watched that 3.5-hour presentation, and there's so much in it, and it's a very dense content, and there's no fluff. Really, I don't think there's any fluff in there. I suggest you watch it. I can only recommend it if you own Tesla, making the time to watch this, because even though it was a very technical presentation, well, not that technical actually. Their AI presentations are much more technical, but somewhat technical. I thought it had so much great stuff, and it gives me confidence in Tesla. I have a lot of confidence in Tesla. I believe this company is a once in a generation company. It's a really a special company. There was Apple, and now there is Tesla. It's kind of my way to look at it. So thank you so much for watching. This was not and is not investment advice. This is just entertainment. Please like, please subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.